really started the field in domestic violence, and then got to um, just specialize in trauma. We did a lot with high conflict divorce as well. And then throughout my career, just the recovery aspect has been an important part of, I don't know, I felt like God almost put a calling in my life of like, you need to be doing something in this way. When I think about that term of like crucible moments, and as we were talking about that even like on the drive here today, sometimes they are like big things. Like some of the
Mhm.
things we've talked about so far are like these larger defining moments. I remember walking into the hospital when I was 15 after you'd had like a bunch of seizures
Mhm.
and experiencing that for the first time.
Well, welcome to the very first episode of the Crucible podcast. We decided to make this podcast to really share some of the crucible moments in people's lives. And what I mean by that is a crucible, like we have on the table in front of us here, is a vessel in which you melt down gold and precious metals. And it's through heat and fire and pressure that those metals are refined and become something beautiful. And so that's kind of the angle for this podcast is that everyone has a story that they can tell. They have moments in their lives that have refined them and made them who they are and made them to be better people. And so those are the types of short stories that we want to share. Today, I'm really excited because for the very first episode, we have a very special guest, my sister, Aubrey Lattimer. She works for the County of Summit ADM board, and she's a licensed clinician and has a lot of credentials and little letters after her name. And so I'll let her share those. But welcome. Thank you for coming on. And it feels weird being super formal with you just because we just rode in the car here together. And so, but tell us a little bit about where you are today and what you do and some of the credentials that you have as well.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So I'm the Addiction Services Coordinator with County of Summit ADM Board currently. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor with my supervisor designation and an Ohio certified prevention specialist assistant. So I have that prevention licensure as well.
Okay, so what do you do at the County of Summit ADM board?
It's a really cool privilege to be in this role. So as a county board, we oversee, monitor, and fund the full continuum of care. And so Summit County is the birthplace of AA, and we have a really robust and rich resource recovery community. So I get to work with any of the providers that are working in recovery with addiction treatment, recovery housing, peer run organizations.
Cool. So, um, before that, I
Hmm.
I'm kind of trying to, uh,
Give some history.
yeah, flush out your story here, and
Yeah.
as I know your history, I'm trying to figure out some of the most important points to talk about. But tell us a little bit about how you became a licensed counselor and what you've done in that field.
Sure. So, um, let's see. I'm gonna kind of start and work my way backwards, if that's
Okay,
okay.
sure.
Um,
It's your
previously,
show, whatever way, however you
sure,
want to do it.
whatever I want to say.
You know.
Previous to ADM, I worked for a organization called Hope Village. I was the clinical director and chief program officer there, and we did IOP and outpatient counseling. I was in private practice for a bit, and then previous to that, I was in community behavioral health. I really started the field in domestic violence, and then got to um, just specialize in trauma. We did a lot with high conflict divorce as well. And then throughout my career, just the recovery aspect has been an important part of that. Often with co occurring disorders, you're going to see a mixture of um, treating the whole person is
Hmm.
really important. Um, Previous to that, I initially in life wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a guardian ad litem and be a voice for kids. And then when I was working on my undergrad, I went for criminal justice. And when I was working on that, two things kind of helped shift me to counseling. One was I was involved in student leadership, and I got to learn that just like doing life with people, I got to meet with some of the girls that were on my hall and in my prayer group, and just listen to the ins and outs that they were going through. I also had some really great mentors at the time. And I just learned like this is really cool to invest in people in a very intimate way. And then I also remember a really crucible moment,
Mm-hmm.
but I learned about human trafficking. And I really had, growing up in a small town, I didn't really hear about that prior to that. And so when I heard that, I was like, I don't know, I felt like God almost put a calling in my life of like, you need to be doing something in this way. Um, and so I pretty quickly shifted to clinical counseling. And then throughout my life, the other thing that was kind of not so much a defining of why I went into counseling, but what kept me into counseling was a lot of our experiences with you growing up. Um, so there's a couple moments of those where it was like, I remember when I was 15, it was the kind of the first like nervous breakdown you had had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my heart softened towards what mental health looked like. I didn't know much about it before then. It's not like you're born in the world and you get this manual of, hey, here's mental health and mental
Sure.
illness, and this is what it looks like, particularly as a sibling. There were times for me that it was just frustrating of like, get it together kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so I didn't understand it until I saw it in a very different way, um, and took care of you in a different way. And then as life continued, I remember being in grad school, and it was the one night that there was a suicide attempt, and Dad and I were there, and I remember sitting in the ER, and I can't even look at you when I'm talking about it.
I was hoping you'd cry.
I don't want to,
Oh.
but it may. We'll see. But yeah, I remember sitting there and the doctor telling us, I mean, it was very traumatic, truly. I mean, I just had this feeling something was wrong. And I had told Mom and Dad, I said, I think this is where we need to go. And they're like, why do you think that? I said, I don't know. I just have this feeling like we need
Mm-hmm.
to go check. And we had found you. And then, so we were sitting in the ER anyway. And I remember the doctors talking about like, just someday you're just gonna have to accept he's gonna kill himself, and that's gonna be the progression of
Mm.
the disease. And I remember sitting there talking to Dad, and I was just crying and heartbroken over knowing what I was being taught in school as a counselor, and then the really stark contrast to what this doctor was telling us. Um, and I couldn't accept it. I remember sitting there talking to Dad saying, like, if I can't even help my own family,
Mm-hmm.
or this is what this field looks like, why would I want to get into this? And Dad told me at that time, like, that's exactly why you need to do that. Because when you're walking through something and living this, you're going to hold a different perspective to just a book knowledge of it.
Sure.
And so that's actually, I literally sat there and I was like, I think I should just quit counseling school. Like, I'll just
Mm-hmm.
change my course and do something else. Um, and that is what helped kind of solidify me of one of the things that's really important, and my kind of why of being a counselor is to offer people a safe place to heal, hope. I don't have all the answers. I
Mm-hmm.
never will, and that's not my job to. But it is my job to offer hope and healing spaces.
Yeah. And just to give people that could be listening to this some background, um, as you see on the sign behind me here, the Crucible podcast, Forged in Adversity, and at the bottom you see Hopetown, a recovery ecosystem, and that's where I work. I'm a person with lived experience in recovery, and I've dealt with various mental health issues most of my life. And I really never thought that I would get to a place where I could do something like this
Hmm.
or work at a place like Hopetown and have the impact that we're having. But um, I kind of want to go and find that doctor and be like, what's up, man? Like,
I
you're
know.
wrong,
Hmm.
because uh, it seems like there's a lot of people out there that just have this pessimistic attitude toward mental health and toward, uh, this outlook that like, oh, it's just never going to get better.
Mhm.
But with the right tools and the right people in place and the right systems, like you can heal and you can live a normal life. And now I have a um, daughter and a wife and a pretty good life. And so, but back to the days of the Crucible moment days there, I remember that scenario, and I never knew how you guys figured out where I was. But I remember just uh, it was interesting because Dad was always pretty um, intense, like not harsh, but like he was hard on me. He wanted things to go well for me, and he just didn't know how to kind of push me in the right direction. And so he he but in that moment, I remember him like softening his heart and mindset, um, because I was laying there and getting ready to jump, and he was laying on top of me and he just cried
Mhm.
and he kept telling me he loved me
Mhm.
and that, uh, I've got you, you're okay,
Mhm.
and that was an interesting scenario for me. And while if I could go back, would I do it the same way? No, absolutely not. I would not uh, try to do that at all. But I'm glad that it kind of like shifted something in you and that you were able to use that to figure out like, okay, like this is definitely the direction I need to go in based on your conversation with dad in the ER and
Mhm.
everything. And um so I guess tell me more about um some of those moments and how like let's dissect that a little bit if
Mhm.
you will. You know, talk about the mental shift and the heart shift that came from sitting in the ER when the doctor tells you, "Hey, you're just going to have to accept the fact that one day he's not going to be around
Mhm.
because this is how it progresses."
Mhm.
And then take us through how you went from, "Okay, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore,"
Mhm.
to dad making a comment and then you saying, "Okay, this is what I have to do,
Mhm.
not what I don't really have it," because it seems like there was a shift and you almost didn't have a choice. Like this is what you were being called to do at that
Mhm.
point.
Yeah, and I already like felt like a calling on my life in that way, but I don't know that I fully understood it until that moment. Um, I was excited about it. I like helping people. I like talking to people, listening to them. Um, but yeah, I didn't have the full grasp. I just knew there were different aspects of the calling, I guess, on my life. And so I guess like just to really detail that moment down, it, I mean, it was just so bizarre. Like there was like an argument earlier in the night, and I just had a bad feeling. And that's one of the things I think that has always been important to me is listening to myself and trusting myself. Not that my feelings are always going to be accurate, but paying attention to the signals of life. And so I just had a feeling. And I remember driving home. Mom was still at church, dad was home, and so as I was driving home, I was like, did I called dad and I said, did Bud make it home? He said, no, he's not here. And I said, something's wrong. And he said, what do you mean? And so I kind of shared all of the evening with him. And as soon as I got home, he hopped in the car and we took off. And I said, I don't know why I think this, which
Hmm.
is kind of strange, but I said, I think this is where we need to go. And pretty soon we got off this exit that was, near this bridge and pulled over. And I just remember like the adrenaline dumping.
Hmm.
And we looked back and I could see you. He took off towards you. I called 911 because I was like, they're going to need to come get this dude. Like, I cannot. And, and so
That's probably a good move.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so we did that, and we just sat and I remember I'm sitting on the phone. I remember holding your shoulder and dad holding you.
He wasn't holding me. He was laying on
We
top of
had to,
me.
yeah, we kind of tackled you,
Yeah.
honestly, because you were fighting us a little bit. But,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the part of it. Like when you love and care about somebody, you're going to have the pain of life with it.
Mhm.
Um, I could never, it's not even that I could fix you or anything like that. And that's part of what I also even had to learn throughout my career too, was that it's not about fixing people. They have within themselves the resources and resiliency. It's just showing them, yeah, you can do this. And sometimes that's how it's been, with you is give you a kick in the butt basically and say, okay, come on, we can do this. Like, what do you need to do to take care of yourself? But you've created the life that you have today. Um, in those moments, I think sometimes, you know, one of the parts about counseling is it's a privilege. I've always said that it is a privilege to be in that space with somebody where they're laying out their hearts and their burdens and pains of life to you. I think it's a very sacred space, and something to be honored. And so those are those moments though that like personally I think back to where, the folks I worked with, I don't disclose those things. They may not know about whatever life experiences I've
Mhm.
had or my own pains because that's not what it's about. But it gives me an opportunity to say like, oh yeah, I remember sitting there just crying in the ER, like
Mhm.
ugly crying and just wrestling through life. So I think it gives us a different empathy to it, but it's remembering that we can't fix people. It's not what we're here to do. Just as humans in general, I've had to learn not to rescue, and sometimes you have to allow the suffering,
Mhm.
and that's
Which that's
okay.
difficult.
Oh, it's yeah. Well, you care about somebody.
Mhm.
You don't want to see them in pain,
Mhm.
but pain shapes us and
Mhm.
refines us, and we need that sometimes to grow and be better.
What do you think you know, people that are listening to this that maybe they have a family member that's in addiction or struggling with mental illness, what do you think they have to learn from like listening to your story and your perspective?
Mhm. I think just the importance of making sure they take care of themselves. One of the things I've had to do throughout life, I remember when we were kids doing like family counseling and going in and just being like, my perspective of it was really skewed. I didn't understand what counseling was at the time. And so it was like, I'm going in there and I'm going to tell on him and
Mhm.
they're going to let him know about
Well,
himself.
that's how it felt to me too. I knew that's what you're doing, so.
um but understanding that it's a system and that we all have things we need to work on, and heal and grow through with it. Um, so doing my own counseling has been one of the most important things I think in my life. And then going back to some of those basics. You know, I think often when we talk about lived experience, we think about individuals who have lived experiences with addiction or mental health. Um, but as a sibling, I have a recovery journey that I have to walk as well. Um, and recovery is a lifestyle.
Mhm.
And I think that's the thing that if I could emphasize anything is that just being human, there are mindset, skills, principles that we can implement into our life that recovery can be for everybody and should be.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that's helped me the most in my journey is like, you know, early on when we would go to like family counseling or something like that, it always felt to me like I was the problem and no one else wanted to work on themselves. They only
Mhm.
wanted to work on me.
Mhm.
And I think one of the struggles that generally that families have is when they have someone in their family that's struggling, they think, well, we just need to fix them.
Mhm.
But the
Correct.
reality is the most helpful thing to me has been when you or mom or dad would do something to work on yourself and then that showed me, oh, I can do that too.
Mhm.
And I could see that you guys were better off on the other side of it. So, you know, all that to be said, I just think it one of the most helpful things for me was that you guys didn't try to fix me, but
Hmm.
you worked on the areas in your life that needed to grow, and then that gave me the permission that I needed to
Yes,
do the things I needed to do.
right. And I think that's really important. If I'm not vulnerable, then whoever I'm in relationship with, whether that be, sibling, friend, whatever it is, can't be vulnerable as well. And
Hmm.
so that's where growth inspires growth.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
What are some other do you have any other crucible moments in your life that you can think
Gosh.
of?
I mean, there's a lot of them. I think when I think about that term of like crucible moments, and as we were talking about that even like on the drive here today, sometimes they are like big things. Like some of the
Hmm.
things we've talked about so far are like these larger defining moments. I remember walking into the hospital when I was 15 after you'd had like a bunch of seizures
Hmm.
and experiencing that for the first time. Those are those big, big crucible moments, but I think there's also like small nudges in life too. Um, my mindset is that I think that, and I hope that I continually grow throughout my life. I never want to stop working on myself. Not that I'm discontent, but more so motivated to continue to do and be better. Um, and so I think that when I look back throughout even my career, for example, just from a professional stance, I think about different moments of, okay, I've got a path to choose here, or I'm noticing just the overwhelm of it, and is this path still healthy for me to keep walking down? And I think that's where, when I talk about like that mindset of recovery, I think it's that tuning into myself, paying attention to how I'm feeling. Do I feel aligned with my values? Um, am I acting out in that way, in that alignment or not? And then making shifts as I need to. You know, about maybe, I don't know, we're in January, maybe like a year and a half or so ago, I felt a really strong nudge or calling, however you want to say it, really, to really pursue more peace and serenity in my life. And so while I didn't know what that journey was going to look like, I just knew that that was my goal.
Hmm.
And that was something that I needed to better take care of myself. And so then it starts with, working out more or differently, walking, getting out in nature, nutrition, the people I surround myself with.
Walking after dark when I
Sometimes,
yell at you for all the time.
sometimes I love walking.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
it's very cleansing for me.
it makes me
So,
nervous. I get scared.
well,
I
that's
want you to be
okay.
safe.
That's okay. But yeah, I think it's just finding those moments of how do we best align with where the where we want to be in life, who we want to be.
Well, I think some people get, I mean, um, I can think of situations that like people get complacent
Mhm.
and they either don't start or they stop that process of continually working on yourself.
Yes.
And when you get stagnant in that, that's when you become unhealthy.
Yeah.
And that's when you burn bridges and
Mhm.
ruin relationships around you because you're not on that journey of continual self improvement.
Mhm.
So I think that's important that you bring that up because it's like, I think that's one of the most crucial things you can do in life.
Yeah. And there's going to be seasons of like they call it wintering is one of the terms I've heard. And I like that where it's intentional rest, maintenance kind of times where maybe it's not that I'm really like exponentially growing or
Pursuing something.
pursuing
Yeah.
something in that way, but I'm maintaining the growth that I have achieved. And I've had those seasons too where it's just kind of like, okay, I need to maintain, I need to turn in, hibernate a little bit kind of
Hmm.
thing. And then you get back on and you keep rolling and you go towards the next thing. And so I think that's kind of the ups and downs that life brings, and how you can continually stay growth minded while content and not go into a stagnant place.
Yeah. Well, um, I have some questions I want to ask you,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Mhm.
And because I didn't memorize them, and I want to read them correctly. Um, we have what we call the Crucible Five, which is just five kind of questions that uh, help us see a little bit more about you. And so the first one is, what's a quote or a phrase that keeps you grounded? Like, especially in those moments where you're hyped up and there's a
Mm.
lot of like stimulus and you just need to reground yourself. What's a quote or a phrase that keeps you grounded?
Yeah. I laugh as I'm gonna say this one, but this is the one that I think stands with me for so long. Is my well our my I
Yeah.
our dad taught
Well,
us.
let's say first of all that I've told Dad one day at your funeral all of these little
Oh
catchphrases that
yeah.
you say
He's
throughout the years that are corny, that are
mhm.
whatever. I'm gonna share those with people and
Yeah.
embarrass you. And so, although he
He
won't be
won't be
embarrassed,
embarrassed.
no. But anyway, I'm assuming it's one of those that he,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. So one that dad has always taught us is how do you eat an elephant bite by bite? And so it's just that refocus for me in
hmm
life of um when I'm looking at something and it just feels like an absolute tsunami coming at me, and just overwhelming, I just have to slow it down and remember I just have to take one step.
hmm
And then pretty soon one step turns into two and they grow on each other. And so
yeah,
that's a mindset too for me, but that quote always helps kind of keep me grounded.
yeah. That's always been it. I always used to get so frustrated because I'd call him and I'm overwhelmed and I'm just spewing out all these problems that I'm
Hmm.
having. And he comes back, he's like, "Well, how do you eat an elephant?"
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh gosh." He's like, "Say it, one bite at a time," you know.
Hmm.
That's always been a super helpful thing for me too. Um, what's a song or a book or a film that when you feel lack of inspiration or just kind of feeling got the blues in life, what's a song or a film or a book that inspires you?
This was a really hard question for me.
Really?
Yes.
Because you read a lot, and
That's why
so
it is hard
oh, okay.
because there's so many books I
Mhm.
love. Um, so if I had to really narrow it down, some that really stand with me, one is called The Hiding Place by Corey Ten Boom.
Mhm.
And that just reminds me of life can be really heavy and um, we still can have hope through the suffering. And so she's just got a really powerful story. So I love reading that book. And then the other one I wanted to put on here was it's called The Traveler's Gifts by Andy Andrews. And what I like about that one is it's told in story form, but it aligns with like different life principles that kind of help us grow but keep us grounded in the same way. So it just kind
Mhm.
of helps refocus in life when maybe I feel kind of like I'm floating out in space and I need to come back down.
Do you think reading helps inspire you and ground you and keep you
Yes.
focused? Yeah.
Yes.
I
I listen to podcasts and book more than I do music.
yeah. I have to say it's just because it's you're my sister and I do have to embarrass you a little bit.
Why?
I have to say I remember this one time when so we had just bought the house
Yeah.
on Fairgrounds Road
Uh-huh.
and we had just moved in. It was like 2001
Yep.
and uh we were in the middle of switching schools too.
Yes.
And so our old school had this like all day readathon thing where you could like and
It was a national reading hour.
okay, National Reading Hour. So and
Yeah.
you made a point to say,
I was
look,
gonna
guys,
participate.
at 10 o'clock, I'm gonna read for an hour and
Yes.
don't bother me because I'm gonna participate in this. Everybody across the country is gonna be doing it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it
I
too.
thought it was so cool.
And so we just got all these brand new appliances and you decided to set a timer on the microwave for an hour,
Right.
but
Yes.
instead, on this brand new microwave, instead of setting a timer, you turned it on for an hour and it
Yes.
blew up.
Yes.
And so that was really funny.
Yeah, mom and dad were real happy about
yeah,
that.
yeah. Good thing it was under warranty, I guess. And
No.
oh, it wasn't?
It was, but
Oh,
I said it's intentional kind of thing.
oh, okay.
So it didn't the warranty
Oh
didn't cover.
man. Well, maybe for Christmas one year you can buy him a microwave just to make up for it,
I'm
you
sure
know.
that yeah, I could do that.
Um, besides me, of course,
Mm.
who is a person that has influenced you to become who you are today?
Okay, so I can't pick just one. I know
Okay.
like I'm making my own rules with your questions
That's
here,
okay.
but here
Hey,
we're at.
yeah.
I want to highlight my grandma, Nan,
Mhm.
because she's somebody that really invested in me throughout my life and just so many like special moments. I remember, so she lived with us, before, um, or when we
Yeah,
were
when we lived,
growing up.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and she instilled the love for reading, in me. Just kind of the slowing down in life to, remember relationship over task sometimes. Um, and so I just had a lot of special moments with her. I loved going down before going to school and working on a puzzle with her.
She'd
And
always cook me breakfast.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, she did all kinds of stuff. So that was just a really special relationship. And mom and dad too have both invested in me in so many ways and taught me so much, um, that I would have to make sure that they're on the list too.
Mhm. Okay. Anybody else?
No, that's it.
Okay. All right.
That's what I'll do for now.
Yeah.
Not that
All
that's
right.
it. I have a
Yeah.
lot of great people around
Sure.
me, but
What's a daily habit or practice that helps you stay centered?
so I have several. And that's one of the things that I guess I've learned throughout my life is that you are going to hit walls sometimes. You're going to get burnout, you're going to be overwhelmed and just broken. In those moments, allow them to be learning moments though. And so a couple different habits that I have every day. First and foremost is like my prayer and my devotion time. Staying grounded in my faith is really important for me. I make sure that I move my body in some way. I love to walk, just that's like really cleansing for me. But um, if I can't get out and walk, then sometimes maybe I'll just use like my walking pad or some kind of other exercise at home. Um, and then meditation and just like focus breathing, really making sure I'm taking care of my body in that
Hmm.
way.
Yeah, I don't I'm allergic to exercise,
Oh,
so
are you?
I am,
Yeah,
yeah. So I don't relate to that part, but
sure.
I do relate to the part of the meditation and the, staying grounded in your faith. Like
Hmm.
that's always super important to start my day in that way, and then throughout the day using some sort of guided meditation or like uh, grounding techniques like square breathing and
Hmm.
muscle relaxation and
Yep.
all those kind of things
Yep.
has always been helpful for me.
Yeah.
Um, so finally, what's one word? And I guess you could bend this rule a little bit too if you have something different. But
Okay.
what's one word that describes who you are today?
Mm. Um, I'm gonna just say grateful.
Hmm.
I think that when I look back at life, of course there's ups and downs, but I just see like the goodness of God in my life, how he's sustained and taken care of me throughout my life. And I'm really grateful for the people in my life, the relationships that I have, and um, the way that I've kind of like been able to create the life I have today. I feel very blessed in that way. Um, yeah, it's almost overwhelming. Like I just
Hmm.
feel so grateful for it all.
Well, I think about that sometimes, and like I think about, especially in moments like this where we're doing something new,
Hmm.
and I usually on my ride home, it's like I kind of reflect, how did I get to this point in my life?
Yeah,
Like it's crazy.
yeah,
Um, because this isn't necessarily statistically speaking how my life should have turned out.
right.
But it did. And so,
And I think about that just to echo off of that. I don't think we touched on this so much earlier, but I remember when you were younger, even the counselors and stuff talking about how and training me in particular up to say like you were always going to need to be taken care of.
hmm,
And so I think when I look back on some of those times, it's neat to see just because somebody says this about you doesn't mean that that's the story you have to live.
true.
Um, and not letting those kind of ideas define you is really important. But yeah, we all have these different paths and these, crossroad kind of moments where we can choose what that path is going to look like. Um, and so I think to be able to say and look back at like, okay, I chose this one, sometimes out of reflection, sometimes there's just like, oh, this seems like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But really need to see the winding path of the journey, and you're right, grateful for the spaces that we get to be in today.
So what do you think's next for you? Do you know?
No, no, I don't have a magic ball.
That's true.
No, I think, I mean, I really believe in the principle of one day at a time and just the next right thing. Um, I'm very grateful for the position I have currently. I miss working with clients and working with people. I don't carry a caseload or anything like that currently. I can always go back to that, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really blessed to be in the space I am, to be able to support the community I work in. Um, I'm hopeful for that to continue to grow. Um, and working on that, and then just continuing to invest in my personal life and personal relationships and family and friends and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I'm very grateful for where I'm at today, and I my goal is just to continue to implement the habits and mindsets that I've done so far, and then I know that as I continue to walk in that obedience, that then the doors will continue to open
Mm-hmm.
up to whatever that may look
Yeah.
like.
Well, good. Thanks for coming out here
Hmm.
and joining us and sharing your story. And I think that there are going to be people that watch this that will be impacted in a positive way and encouraged. And I'm already thinking about. I know Dad's going to watch this and he'll start tearing up, and he
Yeah.
just, so um, it's cool from my perspective just to see all the things that you've accomplished and you've been able to, I always looked at my life and I was like, man, I'm the one that's got it hard. But in reality, like those that care for us and love us are fighting their own battles and facing their own struggles too. And it's
Hmm.
the difference is like oftentimes the scenario is that they're the ones that have to keep it together because
Hmm.
you can't.
Right.
And so I'm
Yeah.
appreciative of the fact that you've always been a source of strength. And
Hmm.
um, so thanks for joining us today. And if you haven't yet subscribe to the Crucible podcast. We're going to be putting out some more videos. We have some awesome stories coming up soon. And until then, we'll see you next time.